Right, evening, or good morning rather. You all remember what happened last week, so we'll not talk about last week. What I will say is that after last week I felt this low. Tonight it's getting a bit higher now. I've just finished watching Ambush, as you may have already guessed, and I have to say I was very pleased with this episode. I was pleased in the way that, we had Michael Ironside back as General Sam Lane, Peyton List back as Lucy Lane as well, and it was nice to have that Lane family reunion. The beginning of the episode was rather funny. I just love how the limo pulls up, out comes General Lane, and there's a half-naked Clark Kent and a football jersey wearing Lois, and I'm thinking, oh, that's awkward. Oh shit, we're in trouble. But fabulous opening, very funny, very quirky. And then we then move on. We've got Rick Flag. How it opens is that Rick Flag is with another one of his henchmen. I wouldn't even know who it was, but basically this guy has the ability to phase in and out. He can make himself disappear or teleport, I would imagine. If anybody can tell me who that character was, because I literally had no idea who it was, and I can't think off the top of my head as to who the guy was. Obviously we all know the actor that plays this particular character. He's from the episode Static, so I don't think it's the same character, because obviously his character died. So yeah, it's not that one. It's a completely new character. Interesting how Smallville are reusing actors for different characters. It's strange. I wish they could bring up new actors for new characters. Anyway, moving on. So what we notice is obviously from Shield, which was episode 2, Deadshot was tagging Green Arrow and Clark with a special bullet that he designed that embeds a hidden tattoo that acts as a tracking device as well, and that's when Rick Flag and his friend are tracking something going towards the farm. And at this point we see, as I say, that's when we see General Lane and Lucy Lane appear at the Kent farm. This episode, there was I remember briefly hearing a description that a specific landmark was going to become extinct after this episode. Unfortunately, it was the Talon. Everybody sort of guessed it was the Talon, but yeah, damn shame. But never mind. Right, I'm trying to get my head around bits of this episode. What I actually loved the most about this episode was there was a specific nod to Lucy Lane's character in the comics. Now, if you've read the World of New Krypton storyline that happened in the past year or so, you'll know that Lucy Lane is actually she works alongside her dad in the army. She's a major as well at some point. Rick Flag approaches Lucy Lane in this episode as Richard Stafford. So he's dressed up in full-on army gear, and he's basically warning Lucy of Clark, saying how he can't be trusted, this, that and the other. So he puts that doubt, the fear of Clark into Lucy's mind, and she uses that. He gives her an envelope. She takes that envelope and pretends that she finds it in the barn. General Sam Lane, I have to admit, was a funny character for some of this episode, because he puts Clark through a test. He's given him a long list of things that Clark's got to do by himself, and he pretty much does it, but Sam Lane is kind of surprised as to how he's done it all by himself, kind of thing. We find out at the end the real reason why the general was making Clark do these tasks, so I'll get to that in a moment. But what I've got to say is that with regards to Rick Flag and what he was saying to Lucy, Sam Lane starts to get he starts doubting, he starts to get a bit he's not able to trust Clark. He starts to realise that something's not right about Clark, because the moment that he realises that something's not right about Clark is when he comes back from grocery shopping. Lois tells him in secret code that there's a fire, which was being screened on the TV. Clark goes off to save it. Whilst he goes off, there's Lois telling her dad that he's upstairs. Yeah, and then who comes through the front door again? Clark, with the cranberries that he couldn't get in the first place. Yes. Then Sam is like, I thought you said he was upstairs. Yeah, I'm going to put 2 and 2 together here, and I'm not going to get 5. But the conversation between Clark and the General was just it in a way it kind of reminded me of just how Clark behaves in the comics. You know, how he stands up to the General, defends Lois as much as best as possible. And because before all this, we noticed that Lois, this obviously Lois on Smallville is slightly different to Lois in the comics, in the sense that in the comics, in Smallville, when her dad's around, she will stick by his side like nobody's business. No matter what the General says, she will agree to it. There's Clark basically telling Lois, look, you know, ever since your dad has been around, you've sided with him about everything, because apparently there's this Vigilante Registration Act that General Sam Lane has been put forward for, he's become in charge of, that's due to pass at some point, and that if it does pass, basically he's going to be in charge of getting rid of superheroes and such, which is not far from what he does in the comics anyway. But in Smallville, as I say, you know, Lois is seen siding with her dad, whereas previously she's always said to Clark how she believes in the Blur and this, that and the other, and here's Clark now telling her, look, you know, your dad has had the Pentagon spy on me, you know, you need to do something, you've got to say something, you can't just be a little girl in front of your dad. And that kind of made me said, you know what, this is the first, that just when Clark was having that conversation with Lois, that was the first time that I've ever seen Clark be a proper man, and it just made me think, this is how you should be all the time. Yes, I know you love Lois, but you do need to put her in her place, and that's exactly what he did. He put Lois in her place, because she was acting like a little girl in front of her dad. You know, she was always siding with her dad, no matter what he said. Even with Clark standing in front of her in the same room, there's her trying to make peace with her dad kind of thing. And I understand from Lois's side why she was doing it. Clark could not understand it, because as far as Clark was concerned, he loves Lois, Lois loves her. Why should there be that siding thing? She shouldn't have to side with her dad, she should side with Clark if she loves him that much. Anyway, the episode moves on. As I say, Rick Flag is telling Lucy about Clark. He gives her an envelope, gives her a pen as a tracking device to give to her dad, the General. But we actually find out that Rick Flag is actually targeting General Sam Lane. Now, I thought he was actually targeting Clark, but it turns out he's actually targeting General Sam Lane. And that's when it hit me, and I was like, oh my god, he wants to take out General Sam Lane. At this point now, we've got Lois has been told by her dad about Clark, how he's working alongside the heroes, the vigilantes, because the envelope that Rick gives to Lucy contains pictures of Clark seen with Kara. There you go. So when all that blows up, when all that comes to light, poor Clark is pretty much left on his own. Lois decides to go off with her dad and her sister, you know, on their orders. But when they get to the Talon, that's when Lois actually finally cracks and confesses to the General that regardless of what her dad thinks, she loves Clark, and she will stick by him no matter what. And it's at that point that the missile has been fired from Rick Flag, and is literally, oh my god, we had a nice little slow-mo again of Clark saving Lois, and it was awesome. I do wish though that they would show a bit more of Clark's super speed as well as in certain episodes. But I have to say that seeing Clark actually save Lois in his new look was actually quite good. It was pretty good, because we've never seen him go out and save someone in his new costume yet, have we? So we finally got to see it, and it was great. Meanwhile, Oliver Queen and Tess Mercer are still sort of at loggerheads with each other. In a way, I think Oliver's obviously still having trust issues. He's not happy about the fact that Tess has made some changes at Watchtower, because obviously Chloe's not there, and I seriously would hope that I've had enough of Oliver getting hung up on Chloe. Dude, you were seeing her for 6 months. Get over it, okay? Eventually, towards the end of the episode, him and Tess, they start connecting, and it's really nice to see that, and the interaction between them becomes more you know, friendly, and it becomes that little bit more of a team family type thing, and you know, it was great to see that. But as I say, the big thing that I loved about this episode, particularly some moments that stick out, were Rick Flag telling Lucy Lane how she would do well to serve her country, this, that and the other. She would make her daddy proud, and I tell you what, that's not far from the comics at all, especially with the recent World of New Krypton story. It is not far from it at all, so that I was pleased with. Clark putting Lois in her place, again, fantastic. We had a moment of, you know, Clark and the General talking to each other, Clark pretty much giving the General a bit of a lecture about how, yes, as much right as he has to look out and protect his family, does not give him the right to go snooping around Clark's background at all, and Clark's got every right to say that. But in the comics, it's a totally different ball game. As far as I'm, it's a totally different ball game when it comes to things like that. Then, as I say, you've got Rick Flag wanting to take down the General because of this Vigilante Registration Act that has passed. Whoever this other guy is that Rick is working with, he's intriguing. I'm intrigued by him. I'd like to know who he is. So if someone can please reveal that for me, that would be great. But overall, though, I think this episode has been quite good, and I'm actually quite pleased that I was able to really enjoy this episode, and so much better than what I saw last week. And this, yes, the certain close moments were not. They were okay. I was okay with them this time around. So, you know, like the beginning and sort of towards the end. Speaking of towards the end, Clark sort of surprised me, and I started having some real big fears in my head. He just basically says to the General, speaking of Lois and I, there's a question I would like to ask you. And I was like, oh no. Please don't let it be that question. Not that question. Whatever you do, Clark, no. But whether he has already asked him that question or he hasn't has yet to be revealed. My guess is, I think said question has already been asked. My only hope is that the question that was asked was, would you join us for a Thanksgiving dinner? Haha. My only fear is, I hope it isn't that question. So if you are wondering what the hell I'm on about, you might have figured it out anyway, because a lot of the close fans will probably know exactly what I'm talking about. But I really do hope he hasn't asked that question. Whatever you do, it's way too soon in the season, way too soon. That's all I'm going to say. So look out for next week's episode. I've already forgotten what it's called, but it does guest star Terry Hatcher, formerly of Lois Lane from Lois and Clark, New Adventures of Superman. She's going to be guest starring next week's episode as Lois Lane's mother. Yes, can't wait. I think it's next week. Is it next week, or is there going to be a break? I can't remember. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you later. Good night.